It was a dark and stormy night, the hippie lady read to the rotund white cat, who was perched perfectly still on a bookshelf. And those, Storm, are the immortal words of the best mystery book of all time, written, of course, by Snoopy, a character by Charles M. Schulz, while sitting on top of his famous doghouse. Storm purred. Shrieking wind whistled outside the windows of their one-room cottage, perched at the top of a seaside cliff. Shards of chilly air rapped at the windows. And now, miss, you and I are going to write the second best mystery book in the world, because tonight is the perfect storm for a mystery. She opened up her laptop and booted up a fresh page upon which to type. The big white cat began to purr and rub her nose on the corner of the warm machine. A hand rapped at the back door. The back door. A thick, pudgy hand, dried and cracked with the weather of the cliffs. It was Harry, the boatman postman. Something came in on the rocks, he gushed as he tumbled wet into the kitchen. Thought you might want to know. Puddles forming at his feet. Oh, thank you, Harry, the writer lady said as she took the item from him. I love surprises that wash up from the sea. It was wrapped in a knitted scarf and ripe with cold and musty rain. Have a mug? Move over, Storm, and make room for our Harry. Storm did not budge. The lady poured out a mug of hot water and proceeded to add heaping teaspoons of powdered dark chocolate from Madagascar, sugar from China, vanilla, and thick milk from a jug. She put it in front of Harry, who began to dry and accepted the treat eagerly. She unwrapped the scarf, and the cat growled and leaped backwards onto the highest shelf in the room, her fur as spiked and standing straight out as lion's teeth. The lady and the postman drew in quick breaths. This washed up on the rocks? She asked, incredulous. And your dog found it, Blossom? Yep, right below ye, right down there. He pointed out the front window of the cottage, the one that faced the open sea below. On the scarf before them lay the bear of Prince Ivanovich, with its secret trapdoor hidden in its puffy, fluffy tummy, wide open now, and showing the priceless, bejeweled sculpture glistening within its case. The rows of bookshelves that lined one wall of the artist-writer-hippie lady's cottage were categorized by subject and design, subjects that helped her in her writing and her art, reference books, inspirational books, odd bits books, and books that generated new ideas. Some of the categories were famous art heists and unsolved art heists, interesting names of places and peoples, incompleted inventions, and things that did not go as planned. The stuffed bear and its priceless work of bejeweled art had been stolen from the Little Russian Prince's museum nearly 100 years ago. The thieves had made a stunningly brilliant heist and got away by aeroplane. They flew over the North Pole to keep out of anyone's radar range, but their plane crashed into the ocean near the pole. Bits of their plane had since been recovered, but the stuffed bear and its millions of dollars worth of gems, sculptured into a mosaic-like scene of a snowy night sky, had never been found, and neither had the burglar-robber, art heist, brilliant genius, but deeply flawed and criminal thieves, until Blossom sniffed it out from the tide pools on the rocks just below this cliff and had retrieved it to safety. And now the storm had cut off communications and made any kind of travel into town impossible, for the time being anyway. So the hippie lady had before her a mystery to solve. An old $1 million art heist mystery. Yes, indeed, this was a perfect storm for a mystery. As she thumbed through a massive coffee table book, not finding what she wanted, she sighed and said to Harry, "I'll need to meditate on this." Meditation was how she worked her ideas, like a baker needs dough, like a celloist summons the notes through his fingers. And sometimes meditation was an excuse to go browsing the used bookstores in town. She lived in Iceland, the place in the world that had the highest books read per capita in the world. She had come there on an art grant to paint this very seacoast, and was given the cottage to live in for the rent exchange of caretaking it to a fine point of restoration. This cottage was filled with ghosts, not real ghosts from real persons whose bodies had transpired, but ghosts of the creative minds and thoughts and longings and whispers and hearts that floated in on the winds from the waters far away, and sometimes friends passing close by near the cliffs, casting their thoughts out into the waters that somebody else on another cliff far away would get whiff of and write a story about or add to their painting. Friends like Blossom, the terrier pup, who never wore a lead but was stuck like glue to Harry's leg wherever he went. It was Blossom who had scented the stuffed bear and pawed and gnawed it and stuck it between the tide pools and barnacles and odd sea urchins and Spanish dancers who thrived there. The beauty of the marine life, the ancient elegance and colors and inventive survival designs set against the sheer ruggedness and harshness of cliff sea life. Blossom had found it stuck there and taken it to Harry. This was the perfect setting for creativity, and many generations going back to the Viking days had chosen it as a thriving resource for human nature's progression and evolution through innovation. The ingredients for poetry, stories, songs, and art, which also brought crime. Human nature is set with jealousy, possessiveness, greed, the odd soul who simply does not have a soul. And that brings crime, and crime brings mystery. And mystery what had brought the hippie lady to live in this cottage on the cliff in search of the perfect book she was determined to write. The mystery what was in Blossom's teeth that day, an unsolved art heist mystery. And now the air was clearing and freshening up like newly washed linen sheets that you lay down on after a hot bath, after a hard day's work, and everything seems content and pleasurable and possible. This is what the sky was like now, and what living around this area felt like to her. "Storm!" she called out to the big white fluffy cat, who had a knack for solving the mysterious conundrums that sometimes tangled up her little books and ideas and sentence structures, usually by finding just the right book to perch on. Uncanny the way Storm knew what book held the tidbit of the answer that was needed, and just in time usually as well. And there she was, here perched on her Mona Lisa smile on top of that large and well-worn coffee table book titled Unsolved Art Heists. Thank you, Storm. And here is where we will begin our mystery. End of chapter 1.